80,000 years ago, the League of Six Kingdoms started to plot to overthrow Madanui, noticing his disregard for the beings within him, in sake of exploring the universe. Barraki Takedox, doubtful of the League's chances of success, betrays the organization's treachery to the Brotherhood of Makuta. The Brotherhood musters an army of Toa, Exotoa, Rakshi, and Rahi under the command of Makuta Pterodax to stamp out the Barraki. Pterodax launches a surprise preemptive assault on the main Barraki fortress, catching the Barraki by surprise as they plot to capture Metru Nui, going directly against their agreement with the Matoran. The League's army is defeated by the Brotherhood's army, and the Barraki are captured. Pterodax orders the Barraki to be executed by Exotoa. Before the order of execution is carried out, Order of Madanui member Botar arrives. Threatening Pterodax with severe consequences if the Makuta interfered, Botar transports the Barraki to the pit to be incarcerated. Makuta Goras, the Makuta Mutran, are dispatched to the remains of Barraki Kalma's fortress in the northwestern reaches of the League's territory. While they are there, Mutran discovers a map detailing the tunnels of the Blade Burrower Rahi he himself had created for the League. This is important because the map the Blade Burrowers were programmed to create was the symbol that represented the three virtues, which was meant to remind Madanui of his mission, because it symbolizes Spherus Magna after it shattered. 79,500 years ago. Due to the fall of the Barraki and the trade pact ending, the Tamatoran of Tametru and the Pomatoran of Pometru begin arguing over trade goods. The disputes escalate to violence amongst the two districts. The Pomatorans sink a Tametru trade barge, and in retaliation the Tamatoran turn Pomatoran buildings to slag. As the conflict increases in severity, the Onumatoran of Onumetru side with the Tamatoran, and the Lamatoran of Lametru side with the Pomatoran. The Komatoran of Kometru attempt to halt the dispute, and fail, and are forced to join the Pomatoran side. The Gamatoran of Gametru are also eventually not able to stay neutral, while all the other districts are warring, so they join the Tamatoran. The Great Disruption begins as the Matoran Civil War breaks out in Metru Nui. This meant that Madanui was becoming sick due to the Matoran in his head warring rather than doing their work, maintaining his body. 79,100 years ago. After 400 years of warring, Makuta Mizarix, knowing this war is becoming a problem, orders Makuta Pterodax to bring the civil war to the end, the same Makuta who had stopped the Barraki. To end the war, Pterodax sadistically seals large portions of the two armies in the Metru Nui archives, and unleashes the dangerous Rahi exhibits onto them, in what would later be called the Archives Massacre. The Matoran Civil War ends. The Matoran war leaders are banished to the pit. Makuta Mizarix assigns each Makuta a region of the Matoran universe to supervise in place of the League of Six Kingdoms and the Barraki, awarding the prize of Metru Nui to Pterodax for stopping the Matoran Civil War. These regions the Makuta are assigned usually consist of one island. The Order of Madanui secretly places agents in Metru Nui to head off future problems. On Voyanui, the Kanohi Ignite is removed from the Chamber of Life by Toa Jovan and his team after locating it. One member of the team activates the mask and restores to the Great Spirit's health, but dies in the process. Afterwards, the team returns the mask to the Chamber of Life, fearful of its immense power. Toa Jovan, having achieved his destiny, becomes the Turaga of Voyanui. Mizarix sends Makuta Mutran on a mission to find Tren Krom, to learn of his intentions and to assess whether or not he still posed a threat to the Matoran universe. Remember, Mizarix and the Makuta were created after Tren Krom was sealed away. Mutran locates Tren Krom's island, and the powerful being almost kills him, but instead, he shares his thoughts with the Makuta. Mutran awakens with incredible knowledge, particularly concerning a plan that Pterodax has formed. However, Mutran has been scarred by this experience. Mutran shares his knowledge with Pterodax, who immediately calls a convocation of the Makuta on Destral, where he explains the details of his plan. Mizrax discerns that Pterodax is attempting to usurp his position as the leader of the Brotherhood of Makuta and attempts to stop him, but he is overpowered by his lieutenant and abandoned by the other Makuta. By the will of the Convocation, the Makuta side with Pterodax and he becomes the new leader of the Brotherhood and begins enacting his master plan. Pterodax orders Mizrax's execution by the hands of Makuta Sparaya and Makuta Krika. Unbeknownst to him, Krika disobeys this command and traps the Makuta on the island of Artidax instead. Over the course of a year, Gorest and Icarax kill all the Makuta who originally sided with Mizrax during the Convocation, Pterodax fearing them to be a threat to his plan. 79,000 years ago to 70,000 years ago. The Brotherhood of Makuta starts sending servants around the universe to collect Toa and Matoran that would form teams named Toahaga to act as guards for some important Makuta. Some of them are formed at different times. Makuta Sparaya's Toahaga team is formed first. A golden age of peace and prosperity begins for Metru Nui. Makuta Sparaya begins tampering with the native Skakti population of Zakaz, his assigned region. He leaves a horde of Vizarak, horrifying creatures that can mutate others via Rotuka spinner on Vizarak to monitor them after he departs. After the Makuta's departure, the Skakti revolt against the Vizarak and begin an island-wide civil war. The Brotherhood of Makuta places the island of Zakaz under quarantine and designates Sparaya as a rogue agent. Following his failed assignment, Sparaya goes into hiding. 60,000 years ago. The Great Spirit brings about the Time Slip, a 6-month period in which no one in the universe can remember, except members of the Order of Maranui and Velika, and of which no historical records of it exists. During this time, the Order of Maranui relocates several Avmatoran from their homeland under the southern continent to various locations in the Matoran universe. This includes the Avmatoran Takua, who is disguised as a Talmatoran and placed in Metru Nui. They did this in case they feared the Brotherhood of Makuta would ever turn evil, which they were already under suspicion of, and would attempt to wipe the Matoran out, because the Makuta fear light. 40,000 years ago to 20,000 years ago. The Makuta complete their evolution from biomechanical life forms into beings of energy. The Ninra ghosts are called in to modify the Makuta's armor. Certivus, prime Glatorian of Equinox, passes away from natural causes. Strack becomes the prime Glatorian of Equinox. 17,000 years ago, Toa Doom saves the life of Talmatoran crafter Lacan. 15,000 years ago, after achieving his destiny, Doom is named Taraga of Metru Nui. The Crawley model is invented by the Onumatoran and Nuparu to enforce order in Metru Nui, but are soon retired because they are too powerful. The creation of this machine was one of the first acts of Doom as Taraga of Metru Nui. They refuse to be shut down, though. Some hide in the archives, while others leave Metru Nui. Kanoka are invented by Komatoran and the Komatoran Knowledge Towers. The shoot system as traveled is also created by the Limatoran of Metru Nui. 10,000 years ago, the being codenamed Ancient rebels against the strict dystopian laws of his home island, hiring himself out to others to perform tasks. As different beings compete for Ancient services, the island society gradually shifts from being peaceful and dystopian to structured and divided and war-torn, as the island's formerly peaceful native species is splintered into factions. At some point during the war, Conjurer leaves the island to forge a new kingdom beyond his island's borders. He conquers an island inhabited by Matoran, but cannot lead further conquests because of the incompetence of his Matoran soldiers. At some point during the war, Tyrant leaves the island as well to forge a new kingdom beyond his island's borders like Conjurer. He, however, settles on an island where he becomes feared for his methods of discipline and execution. Towards the conclusion of the civil war caused by Ancient's actions, another native of the island approaches Ancient with the idea of forming an organization whose members would offer their services to others in return for profit and power. Ancient and the native, who adopts the moniker the Shadowed One, develop the idea and form the Dark Hunters. Together, the Shadowed One and Ancient travel in search of a base of operations for the new organization, leaving their home island. Odina forcibly displaced its native inhabitants and established the new Dark Hunter fortress.